So in this video, what we're going to be doing is really start to make the page look even more like what we want it to, so that kind of added layer is always fonts, right? So all of this is going to be kind of with the understanding that you've may have done typography, you've may have done layout, and some of the other modules where you've thought about design elements and design just in general, and typography specifically. Now, so all this, requires you to kind of pick a font. So that font selection is going to kind of set a tone and set up what you want your site to look like. So on the module, there's a link to this, but Google has a set of fonts that are a whole lot easier to use, especially starting out on the web. So just using their fonts that they include. There's lots of different ways to do this, so there's other methods, but by far the easiest is just using Google Fonts. Now, things that you want to know on this page, I'm not going to walk you through how to actually use the website, but things that I think you should pay attention to that we've talked about. You'll notice there's categories on the right side, serif and sans serif and display. All this stuff should sound familiar, so if you want a serif font, you can kind of go through and just uncheck and kind of see all the serif fonts that they have, right? So however you want to go about it. The other thing that I think is cool that's worth mentioning is up here at the top, you can kind of change the background to black. So if you're going to have like a darker background for your website, which is totally cool, you can kind of see what that font's going to look like on the black. Kind of see how this one starts to get a little pixely and it's a little harder to read than just kind of a straight up serif or sans serif font. Okay, so I'm going to switch it back to white just because that's what I'm working with. The one that I use is Didact, so I'm going to use this one, but you pick whatever you want, and you can kind of see the specimen and kind of see what it looks like and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just going to use it kind of as is. You can adjust lots of different parts of this to kind of see what it looks like, but when you're ready to use it, we can click select this font, and what this does is it says family selected. Okay, so this is what we really need to pay attention to. This will be a relatively short video because it's pretty easy to use at this point. So we can kind of move this up, and it kind of tells you essentially how to use this. Now this is the part where, if you've never done anything at all on the web, it's really tough to kind of follow these instructions. To embed the selected font into your web page, copy this code into the head of your HTML document. If you've never done anything on the web, that means next to nothing to you, right? But at this point, even the small amount that we've done, we know that this is part of our HTML, and we can go find that. Okay, so we're going to use the standard way of doing this. We're going to copy this line right here. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go into brackets, and it says to put it in the head of the HTML document, right? So we know where that is. You need to put it right before your styles, so we need to load it, and that's going to get into something that's called the DOM, and we don't need to talk too much about it right now, but we need to load the fonts first before our style loads, because we're going to use them in our style, and that's the next step. Okay, so we're going to copy and paste that line that Google gives us and put it right into our head of our document just before our CSS. Okay, if I go back into the Google Fonts, and then it says specify in the CSS, use the following rules to specify these families. Okay, now I'm going to highlight that and copy it. Okay, go back into brackets, and now here's where I can use it as a font family. Now we did this in the web module 1. We can highlight that and type it right there or paste it right there. And the thing you'll notice that I think is important is we're using something called a font family. So it's going to try to load this one first, and if it can't or doesn't work, you're going to see just a regular sans serif font. Okay. Now I'm going to kind of show that really quick just so you can see that. So if I save all these, so make sure you save your index.html because we made a change here, and then we added this into the CSS. So if we save that and test this out, we should see a different font. Okay. So when we do that, we see this looks different. That's cool. This looks all different. Okay. Now, if for some reason it didn't work, like so say I spelled Gothic wrong, right? I just had a G and I didn't get it all pasted in there or something. If I save that and go back into my preview, you'll see that it defaults or it reverts back to the default sans serif font that is loaded on that person's computer, whoever's looking at your web page. Okay? So it is a little bit of a balance, to try to get it to look good in a lot of different situations. But what we want to do is have this font family, the preferred font, and then the backup font, right? If we didn't have this backup font and we just tried to use the Google font and didn't spell it right, when we go into Chrome, you'll notice that it doesn't revert to the default sans serif. It reverts to the default font, which is Times or Times New Roman. Okay, so we at least want to get it in the same ballpark and have it be the same category of font, right? And that's what we kind of talked about in Typography 1 for this class. Okay, so that's the short version of fonts on the web. Like I said, there's lots more to it. But that'll get you going and get you started thinking about like how your typography works with the background pattern that we're going to have, and then you can be thinking about how the color mixes in with your web page to kind of make it your own and have it look the way you want it to look.